The city looked golden that morning, sunlight bouncing off glass towers, the hum of ambition in every passing car. From my corner office on the 21st floor, I could see my reflection faintly in the window. The silk blouse, the steady expression, the woman everyone thought had it all together. They didn't know how much of me was stitched together from silence. My phone buzzed across the marble desk. An unknown number, area code from back home in Kansas. My heart skipped. I hesitated, then answered. Hello. Static. Then the faint sound of breathing. A familiar voice. My mother's. For a split second, warmth rose in my chest, until I realized she hadn't hung up. I froze as another voice, my aunt's, whispered something muffled. And then I heard it. She think we love her? She's a mistake. Just drain her. The words sliced through the years like they'd been waiting, sharp and effortless. My grip on the phone loosened. I almost laughed, not from humor, but from disbelief that after everything, the echo still hurt. Outside, the world kept moving. Inside, I was 20 again, standing in that same emotional wreckage. I ended the call quietly, pressed the screen to my chest, and took a deep breath. My assistant knocked, reminding me of the investor meeting in 5 minutes. I straightened my blouse, looked in the mirror, and whispered to myself, "You already survived worse." The meeting could wait a minute longer. I was 17, the first time I realized love could sound like betrayal. It was a rainy Thursday in Wichita. I remember because the gutters overflowed and the house smelled like wet carpet and fried onions. I'd come home early from school, clutching the acceptance letter from the University of Chicago. I wanted to surprise Mom, to see her proud. Instead, I walked into her half-closed bedroom door and heard my name, said like a burden. "She thinks she's better than us," Mom muttered, her voice sharp. "All that studying won't change what she is. A mistake. Just drain her before she drains us." Laughter followed. My aunts. It wasn't cruel, exactly, more tired, like they were recycling a family joke that never stopped hurting. I remember standing there, my hand still clutching that letter, my chest burning from the inside out. I didn't make a sound, didn't cry, just turned and walked out into the rain. The paper blurred in my hands, the ink bleeding like the truth I could no longer unhear. Later that night, my grandmother, Mom's mother, found me sitting on her porch steps. She didn't ask why I was soaked. She just handed me a towel and a cup of cocoa. "You're not a mistake, baby," she said softly. "You're a storm. You weren't meant to fit in. You were meant to change the weather." Those words branded themselves into me. That night, I packed a small duffel bag, tucked Grandma's silver bracelet into my pocket, a tiny infinity charm dangling from it, and promised myself I'd never let anyone define my worth again. When I left for Chicago 2 months later, no one came to the bus station except Grandma. She hugged me tight, whispered, "Build your own sky." I didn't look back at the house. Just kept my eyes on the horizon, the rain washing the past off my skin. That was the day I stopped being their burden and started becoming my own beginning. Chicago was colder than I imagined, the kind of cold that seeped through wool and pride alike. I lived in a tiny studio apartment above a bakery that opened at 4 a.m. Every morning, the scent of cinnamon rolls and burnt coffee drifted through the floorboards, reminding me that life could still be sweet, even when it was hard. I worked nights at a diner and spent my days in lecture halls, studying business administration. The other students had parents who sent care packages and tuition checks. I had Grandma's bracelet and a stubborn will to prove her right. There were nights I cried quietly into my pillow, exhaustion tightening my chest. But there were also nights when I'd sit by the window, look at the glittering skyline, and whisper, "You're changing the weather." By senior year, I landed an internship at a small investment firm downtown. My mentor there, a woman named Diane Brooks, was everything I wanted to become. Sharp, composed, unapologetically successful. She saw something in me that I hadn't fully seen in myself yet. "You've got the kind of mind that doesn't quit," she told me once after I stayed late finishing a pitch deck. "But you've also got to stop apologizing for existing." Her words hit deeper than she knew. After graduation, Diane helped me land my first job at a major consulting firm. I worked 16-hour days, saved every cent, and never once called home. I posted modest updates on social media. A coffee cup, a sunset, never my achievements. I wanted peace, not praise. At 28, I took a risk. I left that firm and started my own boutique investment company, Capital Partners. It was small, female-led, and focused on helping minority entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Within 3 years, we were managing millions. By 32, we went international. Still, my family had no idea. My mother thought I worked some office job. My aunt assumed I was barely getting by. I let them believe it. It was easier that way. Silence had become my armor. One evening, after closing a deal in New York, I found myself walking along the Hudson River. The city lights shimmered across the water, and I felt something shift inside me. A quiet pride. I took out Grandma's bracelet, now slightly tarnished, and ran my thumb over the infinity charm. She'd passed 2 years earlier, but her voice still lingered in my heart. Build your own sky. I already had. And though I never said it aloud, part of me wished Mom could see it. Not to gloat, but to finally prove that her mistake had turned into something unstoppable. It happened on an ordinary Thursday, the kind that begins too quietly, like the world's holding its breath. I was reviewing quarterly reports in my office when my assistant buzzed in. "Miss Carter, there's a woman here asking for you. Says she's family." Family. The word hit me like a foreign sound. When I stepped into the lobby, I saw them, my mother, my aunt, and my younger cousin, standing awkwardly near the glass doors. Time had thinned my mother's face, softened the edges of her arrogance, but her eyes, they were the same. Cold, assessing, always searching for weakness. "Madison," she breathed, her voice uncertain. "You look different." Different. I almost smiled. That was one word for it. I led them upstairs to the conference floor. The elevator ride was silent, except for my cousin whispering, "This place is like a movie." When the doors opened, they stepped into my world. Marble floors, gold accents, abstract art. The Capital logo gleamed on the wall behind my glass office. A panoramic view of the Chicago skyline stretched beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows. "This is where you work?" my aunt asked. I turned to her with measured calm. "I don't work here. I own it." The silence that followed was thick enough to taste. My mother blinked rapidly, her lips parting. "You own it?" "Yes," I said softly. Capital Partners. I started it 6 years ago." They stared around, taking in the details, the framed press features, the signed contract from a Fortune 500 client, the photo of me and Diane at an award ceremony. My mother's throat bobbed. "We had no idea," she said, voice cracking slightly. "I know," I replied. "You never ask." I gestured for them to sit. They perched nervously on the edge of the sofa, like guests in a stranger's home. My mother tried to smile, but it wavered. "We came because we need help, Madison. The house is being repossessed. Your aunt lost her job. We didn't know who else to call." There it was, the familiar tone, the quiet expectation that I'd fix what they broke. For a moment, old pain flickered inside me. But this time, it didn't consume me. I walked to the window, looking out over the city I'd built myself into. "Do you remember," I asked, "the last time we spoke on the phone?" My mother stiffened. "That was years ago." "You thought the call had ended," I said, turning to face her. "You told Aunt Helen I was a mistake, that you should just drain me." The words hung in the air like smoke. My aunt looked down. My cousin shifted uncomfortably. My mother's face went pale. "Madison, It's fine." I cut in, my voice calm. "That call built this." I gestured around the office. "Every insult, every doubt, every moment you made me feel like nothing, it became fuel." I let the silence sit. Then I smiled faintly. "So, yes, you came to the right person. I can help you." Relief flooded her face. "Oh, thank God. On my terms," I added. Her expression faltered. I walked closer, meeting her gaze squarely. This isn't revenge, Mom. It's clarity. You don't get to drain me anymore. Outside, the city shimmered, sunlight catching the gold letters of my company's name, Aurum, Latin for gold. Their reflections stared back at me in the glass, small against the skyline. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small at all. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small at all. My mother's eyes darted toward my aunt as if searching for backup. None came. The room felt heavier now, like the air itself recognized a shift in balance. For once, I wasn't the girl standing outside their door. I was the woman who owned the building. I walked behind my desk and rested my palms against the cool surface, grounding myself. If I help, I began. There will be conditions. My mother frowned. Conditions? Yes. I met her gaze. For years, you drained me emotionally. Now, if I give you anything, it has to build, not bleed. You'll agree to counseling. Both of you. My aunt sighed. Counseling? We just need. You need healing more than money, I interrupted gently. That's the first condition. They exchanged glances, confusion giving way to quiet shame. The second, I continued, is for the house. I'll buy it. But it'll stay in my name until you've proven you can handle the upkeep. You'll treat it like a home, not a hiding place. Mom's lips trembled. You'd really do that after everything? Yes, I said softly. Because I've learned forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the debt of pain. My cousin leaned forward. And me? She asked timidly. I smiled at her. You'll finish school. Whatever you need, tuition, books, I'll cover it. But only if you promise to choose your own life, not the one they designed for you. Tears welled in her eyes. I promise. My aunt wiped at her face, whispering, You sound just like your grandmother. That made me pause. The ache returned, softer now, edged with warmth. She taught me how to build a sky, I murmured. Silence followed. Not awkward, not defensive, just real. Then I handed my mother a folder. Inside is a plan, payments, counseling options, job leads. If you agree, we'll sign it together. If not, that's okay too. Either way, I'm done carrying what isn't mine. She stared at the folder as though it weighed 1,000 pounds. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it. I don't deserve this, she whispered. You're right, I said, my tone soft but steady. But neither did I. And yet, here we are, trying anyway. When she finally looked up at me, her expression had shifted. The pride was gone. The armor cracked. For the first time in my life, my mother saw me, not as a mistake, but as a mirror of everything she could have been if she'd loved herself first. A month later, I drove back to Kansas for the first time in over a decade. The roads were narrower than I remembered, the fields duller, the skies somehow smaller. But as I pulled up to the old white house, I felt no bitterness, just a quiet curiosity about the life I'd once tried to outrun. The yard was freshly mowed. The porch steps, once cracked and uneven, had been replaced. Through the screen door, I saw my mother setting a vase of wildflowers on the table. She looked older, slower, but lighter. When she turned and saw me, her face softened. You came, she said, almost a whisper. I did. Inside, the air smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and rain. My aunt sat knitting on the couch, my cousin studying at the kitchen table, textbooks spread out like wings. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Mom gestured for me to sit. We've been going to counseling, she said, eyes flicking nervously toward me. It's hard, but we're trying. I know, I said, smiling faintly. I can see it. There was a pause. Then she reached across the table and placed something in my hand, Grandma's silver bracelet, newly polished. The infinity charm gleamed under the kitchen light. You left it behind once, she murmured. I thought maybe it should come home. I stared at it, the metal warm against my skin. For a moment, I was 17 again, soaked in rain and heartache. But now, I was also 32, steady, grounded, unbreakable. Grandma used to say I was a storm, I said quietly. Maybe she was right. My mother's eyes glistened. You were. But storms don't just destroy, do they? Sometimes they make things grow. The lump in my throat swelled. For the first time, there was no defense, no distance, just truth. When I left that evening, the horizon blazed orange and gold. I slipped the bracelet onto my wrist, its weight both familiar and freeing. I rolled down the window and let the wind whip through my hair, laughing softly to myself. They tried to drain me, I whispered into the breeze, but I learned to pour into myself. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't running anymore. I was simply going home, on my own terms.